Welcome to the Sacred Thoughts Podcast. This is a safe place for us to talk about the things we don't speak of. Join me, your host, Karen Schock, as we discuss some of our deepest longings, craziest fears, and biggest questions. This life is full of joy and pain, and we are here for all of it. Hey, welcome to episode 5 of season 1 of the Sacred Thoughts Podcast. I'm so glad you are here with me today. We are doing a last minute type podcast, recording today and going to put it out there hopefully for you tomorrow morning. And the reason why, normally we do it a few days ahead at least, but last week I was with my grandbabies all week. We had them from Tuesday until Saturday, actually. So we have 3 granddaughters and a little grandson, ages 13 down to 4, and we had the best time for the week watching these kiddos. But I can tell you what, I was wiped out at the end when they left on Saturday after we said our goodbyes and cried a few tears. We're going to see them in a couple weeks, so I'm not sure why it was that dramatic, although they did have a really good time at Grandma's house. So I'm excited that I can be that grandma. They have other amazing grandmas too, but for this week, I got to be that grandma, and it was fun, and here we are on Monday. On Sunday, so yesterday, when I was completely wiped out, I was going to talk about something different last week, but we're changing it to talk about being worthy today and valuable. There's a new song out by Lauren Daigle called Valuable, and when I first heard it, it didn't hit home right away, but the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, oh, these words. If you guys have a chance, go on your Spotify or Apple or wherever you go and listen to Lauren Daigle's song Valuable. If you feel that you aren't valuable, let me tell you, you are. And as I listen to that song, it just means so much in this time of my life. And yesterday, as I was feeling just, again, wiped out from the kids left on Saturday, so I'm wiped out and got up sore muscles, everything sore. We did twirl the baton a lot. I taught them a little routine. How fun is that? But woke up sore and tired and decided to get out my journal and start to write. And I remembered something that's in my book, actually, and I'm not going to read that. I am going to read a couple things for you today, but this isn't one of them that I'm going to read. But I had a life coach several years back go through this with me. And so I decided to do it, get it out and do it yesterday. And that is the one day I was really struggling, and he had me write down 3 times with my right hand and then 3 times with my left hand, because there's something to be said about when you write with your left hand, it does something with your brain. Don't ask me what. I didn't need to know what. I just listened to the teacher and did what he told me to do. But he had me write it out 3 times with my right hand, 3 times with my left. And in the book, what I talk about, what he had me write was, today I, Karen, commit to discover and experience all the ways in which I am loved, all the ways that I am loved and accepted. And the reason why he had me write that out was because I was just telling him about all of my insecurities and that kind of thing that day. And then telling him, and I'm feeling like a misfit, which is what most of the book is about, right? And that I wanted to be a person who could help, because I always felt like such a misfit. I wanted to be a person that makes sure other misfits feel loved and accepted and, like they're not a misfit, to know they're valuable and they're worthy. We'll put those words in there. And he's like, okay, so how are you going to let them know that they're loved and they're accepted when you don't feel loved and accepted? And then he gave me this assignment, and he said, I want you to go throughout the day. I want you to write it in the morning and then go throughout the day trying to discover and experience all the ways which you are loved and accepted. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, you mean by God? And he's like, no. I mean by other people. I mean, sure, God too, yes. But I want you to go through your day and look for the ways you're loved and accepted by people. And I was like, ah. And I'll tell you what, it changed everything. Those days. And I don't know how long I did it for. I probably could go back and find that journal. I know I did it for at least a week, and then I think the next week, may do something different. But looking for ways I'm loved and accepted, because I realized how much time I spend looking for ways that I'm a misfit, and looking for ways that I'm not accepted, and looking for ways that I'm not loved. So it's the same thing, I think, with my hypochondria too. Like, I'm always looking for something that's wrong with me. And that is a mantra, has been a mantra of mine forever, is what's wrong with me? I know there's something wrong with me, instead of thinking about the things that are right with me. And so that's what I did yesterday. I thought, you know what? I feel so unhealthy. I had eaten a whole lot of sugar over the week with the grandbabies, and we got ice cream and we got Kona ice one night. We did all the fun things with them, and I just felt like I had a sugar hangover yesterday. And like I said, my muscles were sore. And so I wrote out the same kind of thing, only at the end of it, I said, all the ways I'm going to discover and experience, all the ways that I am healthy and that I am worthy, because I felt worthless yesterday when I woke up. Like, when your muscles are sore and you don't feel like doing anything and you don't want to clean the house and it's a mess, and I just felt worthless. And so I wrote that out. And when I went to write it with my right hand and then my left, which, by the way, too, it was funny, Kevin walked by me when I was writing it out with my left hand, and I didn't think he would even, he never says anything. He goes, you're doing that exercise where you're writing with your left hand, huh? And I'm like, oh, it just was funny to me that he even noticed that I was trying to, but I'm down here like this. It's not very good when I write with my left hand, but that's okay. He saw that I was doing it, and we had a good talk about it. But all the ways that I am worthy. And when I went to write worthy, I had a really hard time writing it, because I have learned in my years of growing up in the faith systems and the institutions that I've grown up in, being worthy isn't something that you talk about. God being worthy, Jesus being worthy, absolutely. We'll talk all day about that. But you're worthy? Like, what am I worthy of? I'm worthy of nothing. And I will tell you, I know I've talked about this before, and we're only 5 podcasts in, but I know I've talked about the Proverbs 31 woman, and that's because I spoke about that at Awaken. So it's fresh on my mind. But in Proverbs 31, when it talks about the excellent wife, the very first verses of that part say, the excellent wife who can find, she is worth far more than precious jewels, precious gold and jewels, or something like that, that she's worth more, far more. But in order to be worth far more, what do you have to be? An excellent wife, right? And that I was not. I could not, because maybe I was an excellent wife in some areas, right? But the excellent wife part in this chapter 31 of Proverbs, I did not fit that. I did not know how to sew, y'all. I did not know how. I just said y'all. That's funny. I don't want to say you guys, but that's what we say up here in the Midwest. But okay. It's okay either way, right? No judgment. We're in a judgment-free zone. Is that right? Okay. So, wow. Totally lost my train of thought. Did not know how to sew. Did not know how to cook. I mean, I did some, but nothing like, I didn't have a garden and I wasn't canning my own foods or anything like that, right? And my children did not rise up and call me blessed. And I was not up before the dawn. And you know what else Proverbs 31 says? It not only says she's up before dawn to serve everyone. So I'm telling you, even now, when I wake up, which is a lot, and the sun is already shining, easier to do in the winter than it is in the summer. But when the sun is already risen, I already feel like I failed the day, right? Because I'm not up before dawn. But then I realize as I'm reading through it for Awaken, I'm like, oh, and then she doesn't let her lampstand go out at night, you guys. Like that, okay. So does she sleep? I guess maybe not. Well, in order to get done all the things that it says in Proverbs 31, I guess you wouldn't sleep very much. So doggone it, I tried too. I mean, I read the book by Martha Peace on the excellent wife. I tried all the things, but I never felt excellent. And I think I did say this last week, right? So then when it came time when we started to learn Reformed theology, which you could look that up. You could Google Reformed theology. You could look up Calvinism. When we started to learn that and started to go to churches that believed that, the one thing that they believe is that you're totally depraved, right? So there is nothing good in you. Nothing that's worthy of Jesus's love. Nothing that's worthy of God's love. So, however, God chooses some and doesn't choose others. And if you're chosen and then you have Jesus inside of you, then that makes you worthy because God sees Jesus in you. So then you're worthy. Well, Jesus is worthy inside of you, but you are not worthy. There is nothing good in you. And what that did was set me up for a life of just using that as my excuse for everything. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not worthy. Like an example. Okay, I was going to read it. I'm not going to read it. I will read the next one though. But an example of this would be, like, let's just say Kevin went to work and he had asked me before he went to work maybe to do some laundry, maybe to clean his underwear, right? And he came home and maybe I'd put him in the washer but didn't get him in the dryer, or maybe I didn't get it done at all. I had, 4 children, whatever. And ADHD, mind you. Laundry for a person with ADHD, if you don't have a system behind that, I'm telling you what, it's bad. It is bad news because you put it in the washer and then you forget. And then it smells and then you have to wash it again and blah, blah, blah. That's my life. And so let's say he comes home and he says, did you get my underwear cleaned? Did you get did you do what I asked you to do? And instead of just saying no, or I tried, but I didn't finish it. I'm really sorry. I should have thought of that. I'm sorry for not getting that done. Instead, I would say, I'm a loser. I'm ridiculous. I'm just a loser. You married a loser. And I felt good about that. Like, yeah, what do you expect? You expect I'm going to get stuff done? No, I'm a loser. I'm not worthy of anything. Not only am I not worthy, but what do I deserve? Like, this is a whole nother level, and we went there. And what we were learning, we went to the point of, you not only don't deserve heaven, what you deserve actually is hell. You deserve hell. There's a hell. And you deserve to be there. And unless God chooses you, then that's where you're going because you deserve it. So that's what I believed, and that's what we taught our children. So let's say our kids wanted ice cream and they weren't getting ice cream that night. And they started to maybe whine about it or beg or something. And then I would look at them and say, no. And like, do you know what you actually deserve? No, you're not getting it. But do you know what you actually deserve? Yeah, you deserve. And they would actually say it. They would come right back and say, yeah, we deserve hell. So I taught that to them. And I hate that I taught that to them. Because as my children, if I'm their mom and I love them, I'm not looking for them. I'm not, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I love them. It doesn't matter, like, what they deserve or what they don't deserve or whatever. My love is unconditional for them. I love them so much, right? And so me teaching them, like, it's all about what you deserve and don't deserve, and such a messed up way to live. And a cop-out. That's what I talk about in the book. Like, what a freaking cop-out. What a freaking cop-out that is. To just be like, yep, I'm a loser. Instead of like owning it. Like, own the fact that I did not do the laundry. And if it's because I have ADHD, then maybe I could figure out a way to help my ADHD. Maybe I could Google that instead of Googling what the freckle is on my arm. You know, maybe I could spend some time doing that and figuring out ways to get better. No, I'm a loser. Of course I didn't do it. Yeah, cop out big time. So when I think about how much I loved my kids, and I think about how, in my eyes, how worthy they were for my love, like, they just were worth it to me. I love them so much. Which leads me to something else. As much as I loved them, another thing that we learned was that if you love something more than you love God, then God will take that and tear it down. And the book that I was reading that was teaching me this talked about Abraham and Isaac, and how Abraham was willing to sacrifice his own son for his love for God, right? God said, sacrifice Isaac, and he said yes. And so the book that I was reading was telling me that I should be willing to sacrifice my own children. You guys, I loved my kids. I still do. And now my grandkids so much. And I would rock them. And yes, I was teaching them wrong theology, but I was teaching it to them because I thought it was the right theology and because I loved them so much. But I would rock them at night, and I would sing to them about how great their God is, right? Like, how great is our God, man? That was one of my anthems. I had anthems through the years, and that was one of them. I'd rock hard and sing loud and be rocking those babies and talking to them about how much God loved them and how great our God is. And in the meantime, I've got sometimes tears running down my eyes because I'm afraid that I love them too much. I'm afraid that God is going to take them away from me because I love them maybe more than I love him. And man, I was so afraid of God. And so I would say that to him. I would say, God, please, you know my heart, right? Like, I would write it in my journals too, but you know my heart. I love you more than I love them, right? I mean, I love them, but I love you so much more, God. Please don't. And also, when I remember going to one of my counselors, and she wanted me to talk about being grateful and write down everything I was grateful for. And I remember looking at her and saying, I don't want to do that. Like, do you understand how hard it is to be grateful for something? Because if you're too grateful for something, like if you like your car too much, will God take that away? Because he wants to put himself up. Like, because God is who's going to satisfy, and he's the only thing that satisfies. So you need to love him more than you love your car. You need to love him more than you love your children or your husband. So what a predicament to try to figure that out. And what I've learned and what I've realized through the years about that whole love thing is just realizing that the Bible says that God is in everyone. Like, God holds everything together. Christ is in all and through all. And me loving my kids is actually me loving Christ. Me loving my kids is actually me being Christ to my children. Like, I cannot outlove my children. Like, I can't love my children more than I love God because he's in them. Like, I get to love them. I get to love you. I get to love people. I get to love my husband with all the love I can muster. And I remember thinking, I'm spending so much time with my children. I don't have enough time for you alone. God, I need to spend time with you alone. And then my kids would wake up before dawn and I would have to wake up with them, and I wouldn't have that quiet time, and I would feel like a failure again. We had one of our pastor's wives who said, one morning at Bible study, I trust that you've already gotten up and spent time with God this morning before you came here. And we're all like looking at each other. We're like, are you kidding me? Like, it was all I could do to get here at 8 o'clock in the morning with my children. And you're telling me I needed to get up and I'm coming to spend time with God, to learn about God. And now I have to have a quiet time before I go. Whew, the pressure that we put on ourselves and on each other. And just, me spending time with my children is spending time with God, is spending time with Jesus. Like, I can look in their little eyes and see Jesus. Me spending time with my grandkids and loving on them and letting them know how much worth they have for me. Like, if they're worth that much to me, how much more are they worth to God? Yeah, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What I was learning and what I was trying to teach my kids. And the one I want to read, the part of my book, Too Much and Not Enough, I'm going to keep talking about it. You can order it on Amazon. So just look up Too Much and Not Enough Karen Schock on Amazon and you can order it there. I listened today, side note, to some of the Audible because we have a woman that's doing the Audible for me, and it's crazy to hear my words, spoken by another person, but that's coming around. I don't know how much longer it will be, but yeah, I'm just listening to the playback and trying to, see if everything is pronounced the way it's supposed to be pronounced, and then we'll go from there. So the Audible should be out soon. But in the meantime, it's on Kindle, and you can actually get the very, very cool book. Okay, cool looking book. Let me just read this one to you, because to me, have you seen the movie Ever After? Do you know that movie? We used to watch it on the way to Arizona. I'd take my kids every year. When I say I was a homeschool misfit, I would have put my kids in public school. I didn't have any issue with public school at all. But my sister moved out to Arizona, and the moment she moved out to Arizona, and my parents would go out every year from from Ohio. Every year they'd drive out there in February or March for a few weeks, several weeks. And I went with them the first year and took my 4 kids in a van with my parents. And every year after that, I was like, when it came the fall, should we homeschool this year, or do we want to go to Arizona for 5 weeks in the winter? And we would do it. We'd drive on out there. Oh, the memories that were made. So cool. So cool driving the kids with their grandparents across the United States, right? And then spending time out there, and we could homeschool out there. And then Kevin would fly out in the middle of it for a week. And so it was a great time. And every year, that's what we did. And we had a little TV that we would put in the car. And then this was early 2000s. So we had a little TV and a VCR and a bunch of videos. And we can tell stories about that too. But one of the movies that we would watch almost every year was Ever After with Drew Barrymore. It's a Cinderella story, but it's really real. Let me read this because this is what this is about, the story of Ever After. Let's not grovel. Have you seen the movie Ever After? The Cinderella story with Drew Barrymore? The scene where the prince pulls the slipper off of her foot? It's not like the other Cinderellas. You see, she is so dirty. Her hands are dirty. Her clothes are dirty. She looks kind of smelly. And yet, the prince asks her to be his bride. I cry every time. Okay, stay with me. What if? What if she becomes the princess? She spends all of her days telling the prince how unworthy she is. She grovels. She gets on her knees and continually tells him she doesn't deserve him. At some point, wouldn't you think he would tell her to stop it? Wouldn't he want her to live into her position, be grateful, but also enjoy being his bride? Do you see where I'm going with this? We all have been saved by the Prince. The Prince of Peace has come to seek us out. He loves us. We are his. If he owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, I guess we do too. Can we be grateful? Yes. Should we grovel? I'm thinking no. Can we tell others about this kingdom and the love the King has for us, each and every single one of us? Yes. I no longer like the words believer or Christian. If someone says, so-and-so isn't a believer, I say back, they just don't know how much Jesus loves them yet. If they knew, they would believe. If we could live into our identity and really understand God's love for us, we would be freed up to love and tell others they are loved as well. Some days, though, I just want to grovel. Tell myself and others what a dang loser I am. When this happens, will you please speak the truth to me? Tell me I'm loved. And when you feel the same, which you will, I'm going to speak that truth right back to you. You, my friend, are loved. We are loved. That is from my book, Too Much and Not Enough. And that is what I think what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is how much time we can spend groveling, right? And how much time I spent on my dirty bathroom floor. Darn it, I wish it would have been a clean bathroom floor. It would have been so much easier, but it wouldn't have been as good a story, right? And I'm not kidding when I tell you it was dirty. But I would spend time. I don't know what's up with the bathroom either, except for I think it's the one place I could go and lock the door and know nobody was going to bother me in there. But I would just go in there and lock the door and get on my knees and literally grovel. Literally beg God to forgive me. Beg God to make me someone new. Tell God that I know how unworthy I am, that I knew how unworthy I was. I think I was hoping that I would become the very best groveler. I think I wanted to be the best of the best when it came to repentance and when it came to humility and when it came to, just downright groveling. You know, like I could be vulnerable. I could grovel with the best of them. And if God knows how sorry I am, and if God knows that I know how horrible I am, then I'm good. Like that would actually make me worthy. My unworthiness and me knowing that could actually make me worthy of something. Instead of just saying, God, I know I know you're the God of the universe, and I can't believe that you created me, and I can't believe you love me. Yeah, I don't know how much in these podcasts I've talked about my dad yet, but in the book I talk about him, and I've got so many more things that I want. I have a whole book I want to put together of just talking about my mom and dad. But man, was my dad a picture of, I believe now. I didn't know it then. Wish I did. I wish I knew it then. I didn't know it then. But my dad was a really cool picture of who God is. Because you know what my dad did? He enjoyed me. He enjoyed me so much. He enjoyed not just me. He enjoyed all of his kids, all of his grandkids. I was watching old videos with the grandkids last week. It was so fun. I got a VCR at a garage sale for $5. It wasn't a great VCR, but we were watching the videos, and we watched our wedding, and Dad and I walking down the aisle, and he's crying, and looking at Kevin, and he's got these tears. And then when my brother Bob, who was marrying us, started to talk about me and Kevin, and that he's not in the business of marrying people. However, my brother said it. My dad was crying, and I just watched that video, and little Liv was like, "Is he okay, Grandma?" And I'm like, "He's better than okay. He's proud." And he was just enjoying us, and that's what he did. Every performance, everything that any of us did, my dad would be shedding a tear. And he would come out when I'd practice my baton on the sidewalk on Schultz Street. He'd come out and sit on the front porch, and watch me practice and just enjoy it. And you know what? I was sitting on the front porch this week watching my grandkids with their batons. And I'll tell you what, those girls know dance and they know gymnastics, but they got a lot to learn about baton twirling, and I'm going to teach it to them. But I enjoyed every minute of it. And I just think, okay, if we can show our kids and our grandkids and the people in our lives that we enjoy them, to me, that's like such a picture of God. Like just right where they're at, who they are. If we can love them. And my dad, when he found out I was pregnant, I wasn't married, 19 years old, found out I was pregnant. My dad did not condemn me. He didn't even scold me. He didn't say a whole lot, but man, did he love me right through that. And Kevin and I were talking yesterday about how my mom she was a Proverbs 31 woman. I mean, that woman she was up before dawn, sweeping the living room floor of our small little house at 4:30 in the morning. I'd be like, "Mom, come on," when I was in high school. But she had to sweep before she went to work because Aunt Luella might stop by and see our house. So it was always about Aunt Luella for some reason. Aunt Luella might stop by and make sure this living room's clean. So she and my dad both loved us so much. And we're such a picture. My dad would watch Alyssa then while my mom went to work because he had retired. And I'd go to school and he'd watch Alyssa, and he just adored her. And nothing she could do wrong. Nothing any of my kids could do wrong, really. And I didn't know that because he wasn't teaching us about the nations. He didn't teach me about, he didn't have Bible studies with me when I was growing up, and he didn't give 10% of his tithe to the church and all those things. I didn't even know if he was going to heaven. Like, I tell you what, I did. When he passed away, when he took his last breath, I knew right where he was going. I knew he was going into the arms of Jesus. But it took me a minute when I was still in all that groveling stuff. I didn't know. Now I know. My dad loved me. My dad loved people. My dad enjoyed life. And I was worth it to him. I was worthy. And so maybe, I'm still working on it. I'm still working on that worthy thing. like being able to even write it out. I'm worthy. In Genesis, God created us and he called us good. That's where we start. So a lot of people like to start in Genesis 3 where, all have sinned. And we're Adam. How about the fact that he created us and we were good? Like, can we talk about that at all? And can we live into that? Can we live into our worthiness? Can we listen to Lauren Daigle? Listen to the song Valuable? Maybe listen to it over and over and over again. Thank you, Lauren Daigle. Because she's going to hear this. But thank you for that song and telling me and reminding me I'm valuable. And I'm here to tell you guys, if you're listening to this podcast, and even if you're not, you're valuable. You're worth it. You're worthy. Okay. Now, Liv will pick up my phone. Little Liv will pick up my phone every once in a while when she's at my house, and she will make a vlog, a video blog. And I love it. I love what, after she leaves, I love to pick up my phone and see all the vlogs that she's made. And at the end of her vlog, she'll say, like and subscribe. And now this last time it was, smash that like button. So here's what I'm doing, you guys. On my little YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on podcast, I'm going to ask you maybe to rate it, review it. You can do that on your podcast. You could like it on Facebook. That's helpful. And you could smash the like button, I guess, right? We're going to say that. Smash the like button and then subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I love doing this, I'm learning and growing right along with everyone else. And we're just going to keep talking about it. Hey, you all have a good week. And we will see you back here next Monday. I want to thank our production company, Coraggio Media, and the WELT 95.7 studios in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne. Please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And find us on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Also, you can find us on Facebook, where we will be free to discuss all of our sacred thoughts. To share your stories, please email me at the link below. As always, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week when we will talk more about our deepest longings, craziest fears, and biggest questions.